Elena had always been a night owl, so when the opportunity to work the night shift at the old lighthouse on the secluded rocky coast came up, she took it without hesitation. The lighthouse stood tall, its beacon slicing through the darkness, a solitary sentinel against the vast, churning ocean. The locals had warned her about the place, spinning tales of missing people and ghosts that haunted the lighthouse. She had laughed it off, attributing it to small-town superstition. After all, a job was a job, and she needed the money. The first few nights were uneventful. She found solace in the rhythmic crash of waves against the rocks and the distant call of seabirds. Her duties were simple: monitor the equipment, ensure the light was functioning, and keep a log of the night's happenings. The isolation didn't bother her. In fact, she enjoyed the tranquility. But as the days turned into weeks, a sense of unease began to creep in. It started with small things: a misplaced item, an odd sound she couldn't quite place. She chalked it up to her imagination and the loneliness of the job. One particularly cold and windy night, as she made her rounds, she noticed something that made her pause. Strange symbols were carved into the doors and walls as symbols that hadn't been there before. Her heart began to race, a cold sweat breaking out on her forehead. She told herself it was nothing, just graffiti left by some bored teenagers. But as the wind howled outside, the lighthouse seemed to groan and creak, as if it were alive. The sense of being watched grew stronger with each passing night, an unseen presence that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on her work, but it was no use. One night, as she climbed the stairs to check the light, she heard heavy footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, but there was no one there. The air grew colder, and she felt a chilling breath on the back of her neck. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, her blood running cold. The message detailed her actions down to the second, a stark reminder that someone, or something, was watching her every move. Fear gnawed at her, but she couldn't afford to leave the job. She needed the money, and there was nowhere else to go. Every night, the situation worsened. The footsteps grew louder, the breath colder, the symbols more intricate and sinister. She knew she had to find out what was happening before it was too late. But in a place shrouded in mystery and darkness, finding answers was easier said than done. With each night, Elena's dread deepened. She had to face the fact that the legends might be true, and that something malevolent lurked within the lighthouse. She just hoped she could uncover the truth and escape before it consumed her completely. Elena's nights were growing longer. The sense of being watched had become almost unbearable. She started to see shadows moving in the corners of her vision, always disappearing when she tried to focus on them. Her once comforting solitude was now a prison, filled with unseen eyes and whispering voices. Determined to confront her fear, she decided to document everything. She carried a notebook, jotting down every strange occurrence, every feeling of dread. The symbols on the walls seemed to multiply overnight, each more complex and unnerving than the last. They seemed to pulse with an energy that made her skin crawl. One night, the air inside the lighthouse felt thick and oppressive, making it hard to breathe. As she climbed the spiral staircase to check the beacon, she felt a cold hand graze her arm. She yelped and spun around, but again, nothing was there. She hugged her notebook to her chest and hurried to the top, her heart pounding. Reaching the lantern room, she noticed a peculiar glow emanating from the lens. It cast eerie patterns on the walls, illuminating more of the strange symbols. She examined the lens closely, finding no source for the unusual light. It felt like the lighthouse itself was alive, watching her with malevolent intent. The wind outside battered the walls, and she could hear the distant rumble of thunder. The storm was closing in, and with it, a growing sense of doom. She double-checked the light, ensuring it was functioning properly, then descended the stairs to her small office at the base of the lighthouse. She sat at her desk, the dim lamp casting a weak circle of light. She picked up her phone and hesitated before checking her messages. There it was again, another detailed description of her actions, right down to her scream on the stairs. Her fingers trembled as she read the message. Who could be doing this, and why? Her mind raced through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. She considered calling the authorities, but what would she tell them? That she was being haunted by a lighthouse? It sounded absurd. She felt isolated, trapped in this old, creaking tower with nowhere to turn. Desperate for answers, She delved into the history of the lighthouse. Old records, faded newspaper clippings, and forgotten diaries from previous keepers revealed a dark and tragic past. Many had reported strange occurrences, and several had vanished without a trace. The more she read, the clearer it became. Something ancient and evil dwelled here, something that fed on fear. A particularly chilling entry from a former keeper's journal caught her attention. It spoke of an amulet, a talisman said to ward off the curse. But the keeper who wrote the entry had disappeared before he could reveal its location. Elena felt a flicker of hope. If she could find the amulet, maybe she could break the curse and free herself from this nightmare. As the storm raged outside, she steeled herself for the night ahead. She would search the lighthouse from top to bottom, determined to find the amulet and put an end to this terror. She couldn't let the fear consume her. Not yet. She had to stay strong, keep her wits about her. The lighthouse had secrets, and she was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. The storm intensified, rattling the windows and shaking the old lighthouse to its core. Elena braced herself as she ventured deeper into the lighthouse, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. She needed to find the amulet, the one glimmer of hope in this relentless nightmare. Her first stop was the basement, a place she had avoided until now. The air was damp and musty, filled with the scent of mildew and decay. The stairs creaked under her weight, each step echoing ominously. Her flashlight beam revealed cobwebs, rusted tools, and old crates piled haphazardly against the walls. She began her search, methodically opening each crate and examining its contents. Minutes turned into hours as she sifted through the basement's contents. Her frustration mounted with each fruitless search, but she pushed on, driven by the fear of what might happen if she failed. Finally, in the farthest corner of the basement, she found an old chest, covered in dust, and almost hidden behind a stack of rotting planks. Elena's heart raced as she approached the chest. It was locked, but the rusty padlock looked fragile. She found a heavy wrench, and with a few determined strikes, broke it open. Inside, she found a collection of items: old maps, a worn-out journal, and at the very bottom, a small, intricately carved wooden box. Her hands trembled as she opened the box. Inside lay the amulet, a pendant of intricate design that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. She held it up to the light, examining the strange symbols etched into its surface. It felt warm to the touch, almost alive. The journal had mentioned the amulet's power, but could it truly protect her from the curse? She fastened the amulet around her neck, feeling a slight surge of warmth spread through her body. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. But the storm outside was unrelenting, and she knew she had to find more information about the amulet and the curse. Returning to her small office, she opened the journal she had found in the chest. The writing was faded and difficult to read, but she made out enough to piece together the story. The lighthouse had been built on sacred ground, a place where ancient rituals were performed to ward off evil spirits. Over time, the rituals were forgotten, and the spirits grew restless, seeking vengeance on those who inhabited the lighthouse. The journal detailed the last attempt to lift the curse, performed by the keeper who had created the amulet. He had been close to succeeding, but had vanished before he could complete the ritual. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she realized she might be the next in line to confront this malevolent force. The final entries in the journal provided instructions for a ritual, one that could potentially lift the curse for good. It required specific items scattered throughout the lighthouse, items that had been used in the original rituals. She would need to find them and perform the ritual before the curse claimed her as its next victim. With renewed determination, Elena set off to search the lighthouse once more. She knew time was running out, and the storm outside was a reminder of the dark forces at play. As she climbed the stairs, the wind howled through the cracks in the walls, and she could feel the lighthouse watching her, waiting for her next move. She prayed the amulet would protect her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was closing in. The unseen presence she had felt for weeks seemed stronger, more tangible. Her only chance was to find the ritual items and perform the ceremony before it was too late. The lighthouse held its secrets tightly, but Elena was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. The storm outside was relentless, battering the lighthouse with gale-force winds and torrential rain. Elena could feel the ancient structure groaning under the onslaught. Her flashlight flickered as she climbed the stairs, determined to find the ritual items scattered throughout the lighthouse. Each step felt like a battle against an unseen enemy, the air thick with anticipation. Her first destination was the lantern room, According to the journal, one of the ritual items was hidden there, a relic from the old rituals performed to keep the spirits at bay. The stairs seemed steeper than before, and the oppressive atmosphere made it hard to breathe. She could hear the storm's fury outside, but inside an eerie silence hung heavy in the air. Reaching the lantern room, she began her search. She combed through every nook and cranny, her anxiety growing with each passing minute. Finally, behind a loose brick in the wall, she found a small, ornate dagger. Its blade was etched with the same strange symbols as the amulet, and it felt unnaturally cold in her hand. She placed it carefully in her bag, feeling a mixture of relief and fear. Descending the stairs, she made her way to the kitchen, another location mentioned in the journal. The storm's intensity seemed to follow her, the wind howling through the cracks in the walls. The kitchen was a mess of old pots, pans, and cobwebs. She rummaged through the cupboards and drawers, finding nothing of significance until she reached the pantry. In the back of the pantry, hidden beneath a pile of old rags, she found a small vial filled with a thick, dark liquid. The label was faded and unreadable, but the journal had described it as essential for the ritual. She placed it alongside the dagger, her determination hardening. The pieces were coming together, but she knew the most difficult part was yet to come. Next, she headed to the lighthouse keeper's quarters. The room had been untouched for years, a relic of a bygone era. Dust covered every surface, and the air was stale and musty. She searched through the old furniture, finding nothing until she opened a small chest at the foot of the bed. Inside was a silver chalice, tarnished with age but unmistakably one of the items described in the journal. With the chalice in hand, she felt a sudden chill. The temperature in the room plummeted, and she could see her breath in the air. The sense of being watched was overwhelming. She turned, her flashlight revealing nothing but shadows. Panic surged through her, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had to complete the ritual. As she made her way back to the main hall, she felt the presence growing stronger. Heavy footsteps echoed behind her, and she knew she was not alone. She quickened her pace, clutching the items tightly. The lighthouse seemed to come alive, the walls closing in around her. She could hear whispers, unintelligible but filled with malice. Finally, she reached the basement once more, the last location mentioned in the journal. The final item was hidden somewhere among the old crates and tools. She searched frantically, her heart pounding in her chest. Time was running out, and the storm outside was a mere reflection of the turmoil within the lighthouse. Behind a stack of old books, she found a small wooden box. Inside was a piece of parchment covered in ancient symbols, the instructions for the ritual. She had everything she needed. Now she just had to perform the ritual and hope it would be enough to lift the curse. With the storm raging above, Elena gathered the items in the main hall. She placed them carefully in a circle, following the instructions in the journal. The air crackled with energy, and she could feel the presence watching her every move. She took a deep breath, reciting the incantation written on the parchment. As she spoke the words, the room grew darker, the only light coming from the faint glow of the amulet. The symbols on the walls seemed to writhe and pulse, and the air was thick with tension. She could hear the whispers growing louder, more insistent. She had to focus, had to complete the ritual. The ground beneath her trembled, and she felt a cold hand grasp her shoulder. She gasped, but did not falter. The spirits were trying to stop her, but she couldn't let them win. With a final, desperate cry, she completed the incantation. The room exploded with light, and she was thrown to the ground. For a moment, everything was silent. The storm, the whispers, the presence all gone. She lay on the cold, hard floor, her body trembling with exhaustion. Had it worked? Had she lifted the curse? Slowly, she got to her feet, the glow from the amulet fading. The lighthouse was eerily quiet, but the oppressive weight had lifted. Elena knew the battle wasn't over. She had disrupted the spirits, but she had to ensure they were gone for good. She gathered the ritual items, feeling a newfound determination. She had faced the darkness and survived. Now she had to make sure it never returned. As the eerie silence enveloped the lighthouse, Elena took a moment to steady herself. The amulet's glow had faded, but she could still feel its faint warmth against her skin. She had completed the ritual, but the sense of unease remained. The storm outside continued to rage, its fury unabated. She ascended the stairs to the lantern room, hoping to find some sign that the ritual had worked. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, and the old structure groaned under the pressure. When she reached the top, she was greeted by a figure standing in the center of the room. The man was tall, with dark eyes that seemed to pierce through her soul. His presence was both commanding and unsettling. He wore a long, dark coat that flapped in the wind, and his voice was as cold as the night air. "I see you have found the amulet," he said, his tone devoid of warmth. Elena's heart raced. "Who are you?" she demanded, clutching the amulet tightly. The man stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "I am here to help you," he said. "The curse that haunts this lighthouse is ancient and powerful. The amulet you hold is a key, but it is not enough on its own." She backed away, unsure of his intentions. "Why should I trust you?" He sighed, a hint of frustration in his eyes. "Because I know what you are facing. I have been here before, and I know how to lift the curse. But you must follow my instructions carefully." Elena hesitated, the weight of his words sinking in. She didn't know if she could trust him, but she was running out of options. "What do I need to do?" The man handed her a small leather-bound book. "This contains the true ritual, the one that can lift the curse once and for all. You must perform it exactly as it is written, and you must do it before dawn." She took the book, her hands trembling. "And what happens if I don't?" The man's eyes darkened. "Then the curse will consume you, as it has consumed so many before you. You will become one of the spirits that haunt this place, forever trapped in the darkness." A shiver ran down her spine. She had no choice. She had to trust him, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. "I'll do it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The man nodded, his expression unreadable. "Good. Now take this." He handed her a strange, ornate amulet, different from the one she wore. "This will protect you during the ritual. Keep it close and do not let it out of your sight." Elena took the amulet, its weight heavy in her hand. She fastened it around her neck, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over her. "Thank you," she said, her voice steadier now. The man stepped back, his form blending into the shadows. "Remember, you must complete the ritual before dawn. Do not falter, and do not let fear control you." With those final words, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving Elena alone in the lantern room. She looked down at the leather-bound book in her hands, the pages filled with cryptic symbols and instructions. She had to act quickly. Time was running out. Determined, she descended the stairs, the weight of the two amulets around her neck a constant reminder of the task ahead. She had faced the darkness once and survived. Now, she had to do it again. But this time, she was armed with knowledge and a mysterious ally. Back in the main hall, she spread out the items for the ritual, following the instructions in the book. The storm outside seemed to intensify, the wind howling like a chorus of lost souls. She had to focus, had to believe that this would work. As she began the ritual, the air grew colder, and she could feel the presence of the spirits, their anger and desperation palpable. She recited the incantation, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her heart. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and she felt a cold hand grasp her shoulder. She gasped but did not falter. She had to complete the ritual, no matter the cost. The symbols on the walls glowed with an otherworldly light, and the room was filled with a deafening roar. With a final, desperate cry, she completed the incantation. The room exploded with light, and she was thrown to the ground. For a moment, everything was silent. The storm, the whispers, the presence all gone. She lay on the cold, hard floor, her body trembling with exhaustion. Had it worked? Had she lifted the curse? Slowly, she got to her feet, the glow from the amulets fading. The lighthouse was eerily quiet, but the oppressive weight had lifted. She had survived the night and completed the ritual, but the man's words echoed in her mind. She knew the battle might not be over yet. The lighthouse held its secrets tightly, and she was determined to uncover them, no matter the cost. With the storm finally abating and a sliver of dawn light creeping through the windows, Elena felt a tentative sense of peace. Yet she couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to uncover. The lighthouse, with its dark history and hidden secrets, still held an air of mystery. She returned to the leather-bound book, flipping through its pages in search of any clues she might have missed. One passage caught her eye, describing a hidden room within the lighthouse where the previous keepers had conducted their rituals. The instructions were vague, but it mentioned a hidden door somewhere in the main hall. Determined to find this secret room, Elena began her search. She tapped the walls, listening for any hollow sounds, and inspected every inch of the hall. Hours passed with no success, but she refused to give up. The man's warning about the dawn deadline lingered in her mind, pushing her to continue. Finally, she noticed a faint outline in the wall behind an old tapestry. It was barely visible, but the shape of a door was unmistakable. With renewed energy, she pushed against the outline, feeling the wall give way slightly. She found a small latch hidden in the corner and, with some effort, managed to open the secret door. The room inside was small and dimly lit by the first light of dawn. Dust particles floated in the air, undisturbed for years. The walls were lined with shelves filled with ancient tomes, jars of strange substances, and peculiar artifacts. In the center of the room stood an altar, covered in intricate carvings and symbols similar to those she had seen throughout the lighthouse. Elena approached the altar, her heart pounding. She felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Among the items on the altar, a large weathered book caught her attention. Its cover was adorned with symbols she now recognized from the amulets and the ritual book. She opened it, carefully turning the fragile pages. The book contained detailed accounts of the rituals performed by the lighthouse keepers over the centuries. It described their efforts to keep the spirits at bay and the sacrifices they had made. Each entry was filled with a sense of desperation, their final words often incomplete, as if they had been interrupted. One passage, however, stood out. It was written by the keeper who had created the amulet. His words were clear and urgent. The amulet alone will not suffice. To truly lift the curse, one must restore the lighthouse's original sanctity. The spirits seek revenge for the desecration of their sacred ground. The final ritual must be performed at the first light of dawn, using the artifacts gathered over the centuries. Only then will the curse be lifted and the spirits set free. Elena felt a surge of hope. She had the artifacts and the knowledge she needed. The storm had passed, and dawn was breaking. She had one last chance to end the curse once and for all. Gathering the artifacts, she placed them on the altar, arranging them as described in the book. She lit the candles surrounding the altar, their flames flickering in the still air. The room filled with a soft, ethereal glow, the symbols on the walls seeming to pulse with life. As she began the final ritual, she could feel the presence of the spirits, their anger and sorrow palpable. She recited the incantation, her voice steady and clear. The air grew thick with energy, and the room seemed to vibrate with power. The ground beneath her trembled, and the light from the candles intensified, casting long shadows on the walls. She continued the incantation, her voice rising above the growing din. The spirits' whispers grew louder, their presence almost tangible. She felt a cold wind swirl around her, but she pressed on, determined to see the ritual through. With a final, powerful chant, the room was filled with a blinding light. Elena shielded her eyes, feeling the energy surge through her. The light slowly faded, and as she opened her eyes, she saw the spirits materialize before her, their forms shimmering and translucent. They were no longer angry. Their faces bore expressions of relief and gratitude. One by one, they faded into the light, their whispers turning to words of thanks. The room grew still, the oppressive weight lifting entirely. Elena fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. She had done it. The curse was lifted, and the spirits were finally at peace. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and relief, the fear and tension of the past weeks melting away. As the first rays of dawn bathed the lighthouse in a warm golden light, Elena knew that she had uncovered the lighthouse's darkest secrets and emerged victorious. The lighthouse, once a place of fear and mystery, was now a symbol of hope and redemption. She stood up, ready to face a new day, free from the shadows of the past. With the spirits at peace and the lighthouse bathed in the serene light of dawn, Elena took a moment to collect herself. The fear and tension that had gripped her were now replaced by a deep sense of calm. However, she knew there were still questions left unanswered, and she felt compelled to uncover the full story of the lighthouse and its dark past. As she scanned the hidden room, her eyes fell upon a diary tucked away on one of the shelves. Its cover was worn, and the pages were yellowed with age. She picked it up, feeling the weight of the years and the stories it contained. She opened the diary, the faint scent of old paper filling the air. The diary belonged to the last lighthouse keeper, the one who had created the amulet. His entries were filled with meticulous notes about the lighthouse, the rituals, and his growing concern over the curse. Elena read each entry carefully, piecing together the puzzle of the lighthouse's haunted history. One entry caught her attention. It was dated just days before the keeper's disappearance, July 14th, 1923. The curse grows stronger with each passing day. The spirits are restless, their anger palpable. I have created the amulet to protect myself, but I fear it is not enough. There is something I have yet to understand, something hidden deep within the lighthouse. The answer lies in the original blueprints, but they have been lost for years. I found a clue today, hidden beneath the floorboards in the keeper's quarters. An old map, showing a network of tunnels beneath the lighthouse. I believe the source of the curse lies within these tunnels. Tomorrow, I will venture down and uncover the truth. If I do not return, let this diary be a warning to those who come after me. Elena's heart raced as she read the entry. The tunnels beneath the lighthouse could hold the key to fully understanding the curse and ensuring it never returned. She had to find those tunnels and explore them, just as the keeper had intended. Returning to the keeper's quarters, she began searching for the hidden map mentioned in the diary. She moved the old furniture and pried up the floorboards, revealing a small compartment. Inside, she found the map, its edges frayed but the details still clear. The tunnels formed a labyrinth beneath the lighthouse, with one section marked with a dark, ominous symbol. With the map in hand, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. She knew she had to explore the tunnels, but the thought of venturing into the unknown was daunting. She gathered her courage and prepared herself, taking a flashlight and a few supplies for the journey ahead. Descending into the basement once more, she located the entrance to the tunnels, hidden behind a false wall. She pushed it aside, revealing a narrow passageway that descended into darkness. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the tunnel, the light from her flashlight casting long, eerie shadows on the walls. The air was cool and damp, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnel. As she ventured deeper, she noticed more of the strange symbols carved into the walls, their meaning still a mystery. The tunnels seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning, each step taking her further from the safety of the lighthouse above. After what felt like hours, she reached the section marked on the map. The tunnel opened into a large chamber, its walls lined with ancient, crumbling stones. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, and on it, an old ornate chest. Elena approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The chest was covered in dust, and its metal fittings were rusted with age. She carefully lifted the lid, revealing a collection of objects: ritual tools, faded documents, and a small, intricately carved stone tablet. The documents were written in an ancient language, but the symbols on the tablet were similar to those in the diary. As she examined the tablet, she felt a strange energy emanating from it. The symbols seemed to glow faintly, resonating with the amulet she wore. She realized this was the source of the curse, the object that had bound the spirits to the lighthouse. She had to find a way to destroy it and break the curse permanently. With the tablet in hand, Elena retraced her steps through the tunnels, her resolve growing stronger with each step. She emerged into the basement, the morning light filtering through the cracks in the walls. She knew what she had to do. She needed to use the knowledge from the diary and the artifacts she had gathered to perform one final ritual, one that would destroy the tablet and lift the curse forever. Returning to the hidden room, she placed the tablet on the altar and arranged the artifacts around it. She opened the leather-bound book, finding the instructions for the ritual that would sever the curse's hold. The incantation was complex, requiring all her concentration and strength. As she began the ritual, the air grew heavy with tension. The symbols on the tablet glowed brighter, and the room seemed to vibrate with energy. She recited the incantation, her voice unwavering. The ground trembled beneath her, and she felt the presence of the spirits once more, their anger replaced by a sense of anticipation. With a final powerful chant, the tablet shattered, its pieces disintegrating into dust. The room was filled with a blinding light, and she felt a surge of energy pass through her. The curse was broken, the spirits released from their torment. Elena collapsed to the floor, exhausted but triumphant. She had done it. The lighthouse was free from the curse, and the spirits were at peace. As she lay there, catching her breath, she felt a deep sense of relief and accomplishment. She had uncovered the lighthouse's darkest secrets and emerged victorious. The dawn light filled the room, casting a warm, golden glow. She knew she had faced the darkness and won, but the lighthouse still held many stories, many secrets waiting to be discovered. For now, though, she could rest, knowing she had brought light to a place shrouded in darkness. Elena awoke to the warm light of mid-morning filtering through the cracks in the walls. The hidden room, now bathed in golden sunlight, seemed less ominous. The heavy weight of fear that had plagued her was lifted, replaced by a calm determination to understand the full history of the lighthouse. She gathered the documents and artifacts from the hidden room and brought them up to her small office at the base of the lighthouse. Sitting at the desk, she began to examine the documents more closely, hoping to piece together the final parts of the lighthouse's dark past. Among the faded documents, she found one that stood out, a detailed account of the lighthouse's construction and the rituals that had once been performed there. It was written in a formal, old-fashioned script and signed by the original architect. May 3rd, 1851. This lighthouse was constructed on hallowed ground, a place where the ancients performed rituals to keep the spirits of the sea at bay. The foundation stones were blessed, and the light itself was meant to be a beacon not just for ships, but a guardian against the darkness that lurks beneath the waves. But over the years, the rituals were forgotten, and the spirits grew restless. They began to seek vengeance, their fury directed at those who had abandoned the old ways. The curse was born of this neglect, binding the spirits to this place and dooming any who sought to dwell here. Only by restoring the sanctity of this place, by performing the rituals anew, can the curse be lifted. The spirits must be appeased, and the old ways honored once more. Elena read the account with a growing sense of clarity. The lighthouse had been more than just a navigational aid. It had been a sacred site, its purpose intertwined with ancient rituals and beliefs. The neglect of these rituals had angered the spirits, leading to the curse that had haunted the lighthouse for generations. As she continued to sift through the documents, she found letters and journal entries from previous keepers. Each one spoke of strange occurrences, of an ever-present sense of being watched, and of the desperate attempts to lift the curse. One entry, written by a keeper from the early 1900s, caught her eye. June 12, 1908. The spirits grow more restless with each passing day. I have tried everything, incantations, offerings, even attempting to recreate the old rituals described in the records. But nothing seems to work. The presence is always here, watching, waiting. I fear my time is running out. The whispers are louder now, and I can feel their cold breath on my neck. If anyone finds this, know that the key lies in the amulet. It must be used in conjunction with the original rituals to restore peace. But beware, for the spirits are cunning, and they will stop at nothing to protect their domain. Elena felt a chill as she read the entry, the words resonating with her own experiences. She had faced the same fears, the same relentless presence. But now, with the knowledge she had gained, and the ritual she had performed, she had succeeded where others had failed. Determined to honor the past and ensure the lighthouse remained a place of light and safety, she decided to continue the rituals that had been forgotten. She would keep the amulet safe, using it to perform the ceremonies that would maintain the lighthouse's sanctity. Days turned into weeks as Elena settled into a new routine. Each night, she performed the rituals, reciting the incantations and making offerings to the spirits of the sea. The lighthouse, once a place of fear and darkness, began to feel like a sanctuary. The oppressive weight of the curse was gone, replaced by a sense of peace and purpose. Word of her efforts spread to the nearby town, and the locals, once wary of the lighthouse, began to visit. They brought stories of their own encounters with the spirits, and some even joined her in the nightly rituals. The lighthouse became a symbol of community and resilience, a beacon of hope in the darkness. Elena continued to delve into the history of the lighthouse, uncovering more stories and secrets. She learned about the lives of the previous keepers, their struggles and triumphs, and the rich tapestry of history that wove through the lighthouse's stones. Each discovery added to her understanding, deepening her connection to the place she now called home. One evening, as she stood at the top of the lighthouse, watching the sun set over the ocean, she felt a deep sense of contentment. She had faced the darkness and brought light to a place that had been shrouded in fear for so long. The spirits were at peace, and the lighthouse stood as a testament to the power of courage and determination. Elena knew there were still many stories left to uncover, many secrets hidden in the old stones. But for now, she was content to stand watch, to keep the light burning, and to honor the past while looking to the future. The lighthouse, once a place of fear and mystery, had become a home, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Weeks turned into months, and the lighthouse continued to thrive under Elena's care. The rituals she performed each night became a comforting routine, a connection to the past that brought peace to the present. The locals embraced the lighthouse, their fear replaced by a newfound respect and curiosity. Elena's life had found a rhythm, and the once haunted beacon now stood as a symbol of hope. However, as the summer days grew shorter and the nights longer, Elena began to notice subtle changes. The air around the lighthouse felt heavier, and a chill crept into the walls. The sense of being watched, which had once faded, now returned with a vengeance. She dismissed it at first, attributing it to her imagination, but the feeling persisted. One night, as she performed the ritual, the candle flames flickered violently, casting erratic shadows on the walls. The symbols she had come to know so well seemed to shift and twist in the dancing light. Her voice faltered as she recited the incantation, a shiver running down her spine. Something was different. Something was wrong. After the ritual, she retired to her quarters, trying to shake off the unease. She pulled out the old diary of the last lighthouse keeper, hoping to find some reassurance in its pages. As she read, she came across an entry she had overlooked before, written in a hurried, almost frantic script. October 30th, 1923. The spirits grow restless once more. Despite my efforts, their anger returns with the change of seasons. The amulet, the rituals, they are temporary measures. I fear there is a deeper darkness that must be confronted, something beyond the reach of our understanding. The true source of the curse lies buried in the past, hidden in shadows. I have heard whispers of an ancient artifact, lost to time, that holds the key to banishing the spirits for good. It is said to be hidden within the depths of the tunnels, protected by those who came before us. I must find it, for without it, the curse will never truly be lifted. If I do not return, let this be a warning. The shadows are not gone, merely waiting. Elena felt a chill as she read the entry. The shadows she had fought to dispel were not vanquished, but merely dormant. The curse was not entirely lifted, and the spirit's anger could return with the changing seasons. The artifact mentioned in the diary could be the key to ending the curse once and for all. Determined to find this artifact, Elena prepared herself for another journey into the tunnels. She gathered her supplies, flashlight, rope, and a small satchel with the ritual items, and headed to the basement. The entrance to the tunnels loomed before her, dark and foreboding. As she descended into the depths, the air grew colder, and the oppressive weight of the past seemed to press down on her. The walls were lined with the same strange symbols, their meanings still elusive. She followed the map carefully, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The tunnels twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the earth. After what felt like hours, she reached a section of the tunnels she had not explored before. The air was thick with an ancient, musty scent, and the walls were covered in intricate carvings depicting scenes of ritual and sacrifice. At the end of the passage, she found a large, ornate door. It was covered in dust and cobwebs, but the symbols on it were clear. They matched those in the diary, indicating that this was the place she had been searching for. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, the hinges creaking in protest. Inside was a small chamber, dimly lit by a single shaft of light from a crack in the ceiling. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it, a small, ancient box. Elena approached it cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The box was covered in symbols, similar to those she had seen throughout the lighthouse and in the diary. She opened the box, revealing an artifact unlike any she had seen before. It was a small, intricately carved stone, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. The air around it seemed to hum with energy, and she could feel its power radiating from it. This was the key, the artifact that could end the curse once and for all. As she held the stone, the shadows in the room seemed to shift and move, and she could hear faint whispers growing louder. The spirits were aware of her presence, and they were not pleased. She knew she had to act quickly, to use the artifact in conjunction with the rituals she had learned to finally banish the spirits. Elena retraced her steps through the tunnels, the artifact clutched tightly in her hand. The whispers followed her, growing more insistent and angry. The weight of the spirit's fury pressed down on her, but she pressed on, determined to see this through. Back in the main hall of the lighthouse, she placed the artifact on the altar, arranging the ritual items around it. She lit the candles, their flames casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. The air crackled with energy as she began the incantation, her voice strong and steady. The ground trembled beneath her, and the whispers grew into a deafening roar. The shadows in the room twisted and writhed, but she did not falter. She continued the ritual, her voice rising above the chaos. The symbols on the artifact glowed brighter, and the air grew thick with tension. With a final powerful chant, the room was filled with a blinding light. The shadows recoiled, and the whispers fell silent. The ground stopped trembling, and the oppressive weight lifted. The artifact's glow faded, its power spent. The spirits were gone, their anger and sorrow finally laid to rest. Elena collapsed to the floor, exhausted but triumphant. She had faced the darkness and won. The lighthouse was truly free from the curse, and the spirits were at peace. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for now she could rest, knowing she had brought light to a place that had long been shrouded in darkness. The lighthouse stood as a beacon of hope and resilience, its secrets finally unveiled. Elena felt a deep sense of accomplishment and relief. She had uncovered the lighthouse's darkest mysteries and emerged victorious, ready to face whatever the future held. Elena awoke to a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The sunlight streamed through the windows of the lighthouse, casting warm golden beams across the floor. The storm had passed, both literally and metaphorically, and the lighthouse stood quiet and serene. She got up and stretched, feeling the weight of the previous night's ordeal lift off her shoulders. The lighthouse was now free from the curse, and she could feel the difference in the air. It was lighter, less oppressive, and carried a sense of renewal. She knew she had done it, truly ended the haunting that had plagued this place for so long. Elena made her way down to the kitchen, where she brewed a pot of coffee. As the familiar scent filled the room, she reflected on her journey. The artifacts, the rituals, the ancient diary, and the hidden chambéry all felt like pieces of a puzzle that had finally come together. She had honored the past, confronted the darkness, and emerged stronger for it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. She opened it to find several locals, including Mrs. Hargrove, the town historian, and a few others who had supported her throughout the ordeal. They had heard the news and come to see the lighthouse and the woman who had saved it. "Elena, we heard about what you did," Mrs. Hargrove said, her eyes brimming with gratitude. "We wanted to thank you and see if there's anything we can do to help." Elena smiled warmly, inviting them inside. She shared her story, recounting the rituals, the hidden rooms, and the final confrontation with the spirits. The townspeople listened intently, their faces a mix of awe and relief. They had always feared the lighthouse, but now they saw it as a place of triumph and resilience. "I couldn't have done it without the help of those who came before me," Elena said, gesturing to the artifacts and the diary spread out on the table. "Their knowledge and courage guided me." The group spent the morning exploring the lighthouse, marveling at its history and the changes Elena had brought about. They helped her clean and restore some of the rooms, turning the once haunted space into a welcoming haven. The lighthouse, now free from its dark past, began to feel like a true home. As the day wore on, Elena and the townspeople gathered in the lantern room. They looked out over the ocean, the waves gently lapping against the rocks. The sun was setting, casting a beautiful array of colors across the sky. It was a perfect end to a tumultuous chapter in the lighthouse's history. Mrs. Hargrove handed Elena a small framed photograph. It was an old picture of the lighthouse, taken many years ago, with one of the previous keepers standing proudly beside it. "This belongs here," she said. "A reminder of the past, and a symbol of the future you've created." Elena accepted the photograph, feeling a deep sense of connection to the keepers who had come before her. She placed it on a shelf in the lantern room, where it would be a constant reminder of the lighthouse's legacy. As night fell, Elena prepared to perform the nightly ritual one last time. This time, it felt different, more like a celebration than a duty. The townspeople joined her, their voices rising in unison as they recited the incantation. The lighthouse seemed to glow with a warm, welcoming light, its beacon shining brightly out to sea. After the ritual, the group sat together in the lantern room, sharing stories and laughter. The lighthouse, once a place of fear and mystery, had become a symbol of community and hope. Elena looked around at the faces of her new friends and felt a profound sense of belonging. When the last of the townspeople had left and the lighthouse was quiet once more, Elena stood at the top of the tower, looking out over the dark ocean. She knew there would always be challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. The lighthouse was her home now, and she was its guardian. As she turned to go back inside, she felt a gentle breeze, almost like a whisper of thanks from the spirits she had set free. She smiled, knowing that they were at peace, and so was she. Elena descended the stairs, the warm glow of the lighthouse guiding her way. She felt a deep sense of contentment and purpose. The lighthouse's secrets had been unveiled, and its future was bright. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, confident in her ability to face it with courage and determination. The lighthouse stood tall against the night sky, its beacon shining brightly, a symbol of hope and resilience. And as Elena closed her eyes, she knew that she had truly found her place in the world. Months turned into years, and Elena's bond with the lighthouse and the town deepened. The lighthouse, now free of its curse, became a cherished landmark, attracting visitors from far and wide who were drawn by the stories of its haunted past and miraculous redemption. Elena had become somewhat of a local hero, known for her bravery and tenacity. Life at the lighthouse settled into a comfortable rhythm. Each day, Elena would attend to her duties, maintain the beacon, and welcome visitors. She took great pride in sharing the lighthouse's history and her own harrowing experiences with those who came to see the place that had once been shrouded in fear. The photograph of the former keeper remained on the shelf in the lantern room, a silent guardian watching over the place. Elena continued to perform the nightly rituals, not out of fear, but as a way to honor the spirits and the keepers who had come before her. These rituals had become a cherished part of her routine, a bridge between the past and the present. She felt a profound sense of peace and purpose in keeping the lighthouse's legacy alive. One crisp autumn evening, as Elena stood at the top of the lighthouse, she noticed a group of children playing on the shore. They were reenacting the stories they had heard, pretending to fend off ghosts and save the lighthouse. Their laughter and carefree spirits filled her with joy. She realized that the lighthouse had become a source of inspiration and wonder for the next generation. Elena decided to create a small museum within the lighthouse, dedicated to its history and the bravery of its keepers. With the help of the townspeople, she collected artifacts, photographs, and documents, curating a space that told the lighthouse's story in a way that was both educational and captivating. The museum quickly became a beloved attraction, drawing visitors eager to learn about the lighthouse's storied past. As the years passed, Elena's connection to the lighthouse only grew stronger. She became a mentor to young aspiring keepers, sharing her knowledge and experiences with those who wished to continue the tradition. She taught them the rituals, the importance of maintaining the lighthouse, and the stories of the spirits who once haunted its halls. One day, a young woman named Mia arrived at the lighthouse. She was passionate about its history and eager to learn. Elena saw a reflection of her younger self in Mia's eyes, the same curiosity and determination. She took Mia under her wing, teaching her everything she knew about the lighthouse and its legacy. Under Elena's guidance, Mia flourished. She quickly became an adept keeper, her dedication to the lighthouse mirroring Elena's own. The two formed a strong bond, working side by side to ensure the lighthouse remained a beacon of hope and resilience. As Elena grew older, she began to think about the future. She knew that one day she would need to pass the torch to someone else. Mia was the obvious choice, and Elena felt confident that she would be an excellent guardian of the lighthouse's legacy. One evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Elena called Mia to the lantern room. The room was filled with the warm, golden light of the setting sun, casting long shadows on the walls. Elena took a deep breath, feeling a mix of pride and sadness. "Mia," she began, "the time has come for me to step down as the keeper of this lighthouse. I have seen so much and learned so much, but now it's your turn to carry on this legacy." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, understanding the significance of the moment. I won't let you down, Elena. I promise to honor the lighthouse and its history, just as you have. Elena smiled, handing Mia the key to the lighthouse. I know you will. This place is in good hands. As the years went by, Elena remained a fixture in the community, sharing her stories and wisdom with anyone who would listen. She continued to visit the lighthouse, now under Mia's capable care, watching with pride as her prati CGC maintained the traditions and rituals she had taught her. One day, as Elena stood on the shore, looking up at the lighthouse, she felt a gentle breeze. It was the same comforting presence she had felt the day the curse was lifted. She knew the spirits were at peace, and so was she. Elena lived out her days in the town she had come to love, surrounded by friends and the legacy she had helped preserve. When she passed, the townspeople gathered at the lighthouse to honor her memory. Mia, now the head keeper, led a special ritual to commemorate Elena's life and contributions. The lighthouse continued to stand tall against the backdrop of the ever-changing sea, its beacon shining brightly. It remained a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of courage. And as the light swept across the dark waves, it carried with it the spirit of Elena and all those who had come before her, a legacy that would live on for generations to come.